Hello and good evening. Welcome to a Sky News special programme on the Coronation, where you can have your say ahead of this weekend's celebrations. Over the next hour, we'll bring you the results of exclusive polling from around the country on the popularity of the monarchy, and we'll be taking your calls. So get in touch and let us know what you think and whether Charles is a king for all. Now, as King Charles and Queen Camilla prepare to be crowned, exclusive polling for Sky News shows overall support for the monarchy has dropped. We'll look at the most popular members of the royal family and who they are among the British public 8 months on from the death of Queen Elizabeth. And as the cost of living crisis continues, we'll be asking if the royal family receive too much of our money. And we want you to have your say on the coronation over the next hour by calling 0208 167 2200. That is 0208 167 2200. Call us now. Well, I am pleased to say that for the next hour, we'll be joined by the former royal correspondent, now royal commentator, Jenny Bond, the author of the book And What Do You Do? What the Royal Family Don't Want You to Know, Norman Baker, and the journalist and royal commentator, Afia Hagen. Now, just before we get to your calls, let's take a look at some of that polling that's been done for Sky News in conjunction with Ipsos. Now, we asked just over 1,000 people, 1,004 to be precise, should Britain become a republic or remain a monarchy? Now, the top line there shows support for a monarchy, while the bottom line shows support for a republic. But it's the yellow line in the middle that I want to draw your attention to. It shows net support for the monarchy. The most recent polling showed a sharp dip in support to plus 40%. And attitudes towards the royal family differ depending on your age. Older people, aged 55 to 75, have more positive views of the royals than Generation X or millennials. In fact, 28% of 18 to 34-year-olds had unfavourable views of the royal family. That's more than double of those in the older category. Now, we want you to have your say, and you can call us on 0208 167 2200. So let's get on with the calls, and I am pleased to say Paula from Sunderland is on the line. Paula, what do you want to say about the monarchy?
I think basically the monarchy are really, really, really important. I don't think, I'm one of the older generation, obviously, but I don't think that people realise in the younger generation what they actually do. They have to realise that King Charles, before he got anywhere near becoming king, he set up the Prince's Trust, and that is for younger people. And that has really, really, really improved people's understanding of what's going on and improved their confidence and their social skills. So I think the monarchy are still very, very good value.
Thank you for that, Paula. I do appreciate you calling in. Let's just, while we're on the phone lines, go to Kate in Manchester. Kate, you are on the air.
Hi there. OK, well, I'm obviously not... I do support the Prince's Trust. I think that will be his legacy, and a positive one at that. I think there's been an air of mystery about the royal family for some years, but that mystery has gone now. I think Charles, Camilla and William and Kate have now taken that mystery away due to the various social media platforms, and I think it's resulted in them becoming more celebrities. I think what you see with Charles, he comes across as meaningful but weak, and then it's evident that Camilla provides Charles with a backbone. Charles, I think, does hide behind Camilla, and in that way he can deny accountability for leaking to the press. I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I mean, I'd like to go into some detail about William as well, and the extent to what he can offer and how he can change and become more relatable to the younger generation, which I don't think he can at the moment.
Sorry to interrupt you, Kate, but you don't need to do it all in one go. We can come back to you, so just hang on there for a moment. I want to bring in our panel for a moment just to kind of test the water and see where we are with this so far. I mean, Jenny, it was quite clear, wasn't it, there from the first caller that we had from Paula, that she saw the positives of the monarchy and especially the Prince's Trust.
Yeah, and you can't take that away from Charles. The Prince's Trust is quite extraordinary and has helped so many people. I think, frankly, you can do anything you like with these poll findings. You can do anything you want with statistics, because I can tell you from a poll taken in 2000 that 40% of the younger generation actually were angry about the monarchy. And so you could argue from your poll that actually more young people are in favour now. You can twist it any way you want.
could argue it that way.
But the constant is that there is broad support in this country for continuing a monarchy. That's always, every poll has shown a majority for that.
Yeah, and broad support for continuing the monarchy, Norman, but perhaps some of the people within the monarchy are losing support.
Well, I mean, I think the difference between the position 12 months ago and the position now is, of course, we no longer have the Queen. And there was a high level of support for the Queen, personally. And I think the royal family makes a mistake to assume that the support for the Queen is the same as support for the monarchy. It isn't. And I think part of the dip that you've identified in your poll relates to that change. After all, we've seen Not My King placards at demonstrations. We never saw, as far as I know, and Jenny might correct me, Not My Queen placards. We've seen eggs thrown at Charles. I don't think I ever remember an egg being thrown at the Queen.
No. Yes, eggs have been thrown at the Queen.
OK,
and
well...
there have been protesters on practically every tour I've been around
well, they're
the
more visible
Commonwealth.
now, certainly, I think.
Well, maybe we're just covering them more.
I think
well, I don't
every
know,
time he's
actually.
been out, there have been eggs thrown at him, from what I can sort of tell. It's been more frequent than I remember.
More eggs. I think we can agree on more eggs.
More eggs. So I think there is an issue then about the way the monarchy presents itself now, because the Queen was a figure that nobody wanted to particularly attack, because people thought she'd done quite a good job. She was an old lady, and it's just a matter of courtesy as much as anything else. That's now changed, and I think people are now saying, well, hang on, where are we going? And is this coronation, which is a sort of imperial coronation, appropriate for the 21st century? After all, let's bear in mind that we've got about 9 European monarchies. Only Britain has a coronation. Nobody else has a coronation. The Spanish coronations ended in 1555.
We do like pageantry here, don't we? I mean, Norma's kind of pushing it forward a little bit there, and Kate in her answer was also talking about the change in generation is really key here, isn't it? And I think social media has a lot to play in it, insofar as we see a lot more of what the royals are up to, and we're able to give our opinions on the royals a lot more.
And that's a really good point that Kate has made, that she feels that the mystique of the royal family has been lost because, you know, they've lifted the curtain behind what they get up to. We see them on social media. And, of course, we had Prince Harry's memoir, which told us a lot about the royal family that we did or did not want to know. But she was also, I think, making a really good point about Prince William and appealing to younger people. And, in fact, William and Kate are not the couple to do that, because they're in their 40s. They're not exactly the younger generation, you know? And that is what it is that what we need, if the royal family are going to appeal to the younger generation, to that 18 to 24 bracket, then they need to have young, glamorous royals to do that. But also King Charles needs to surround himself with younger advisors, with younger people in office who can advise him how best to appeal that to that younger generation. Because without being rude and with all due respect, the people that loved Queen Elizabeth II and like King Charles III are not going to be around forever. It's horrible to say, but it's absolutely true. So if we want younger people to support the monarchy, then we need to appeal to them. It has to be done. And who's going to do that? It's not Kate and William, and it's certainly not Harry and Meghan.
Well, let's see what Kate has to say about that in Manchester. Kate, I did interrupt you as you were about to tell us about your opinions on William. I mean, how much of what Afia just said do you agree with, that the royal family needs to start appealing to a younger demographic, and it's perhaps with two people that have been cast out somewhat?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, to be fair to Harry and Meghan, they did appeal to the younger generation. They excelled at the overseas tours, and that's where the problem started with them. They become extremely popular, and I think Kate and William had a problem with that. And I think they can go back to 2020. And what has become clear now about William's deal with Murdoch and the settlement, etc., and perhaps the protection around his family and that of, you know, the media scrutiny, I think that needs to be discussed as well. But all this about William doesn't bode well. he comes across, as someone, I would say, perhaps a bit, angry, almost bullyish in some respects. But I read a lot. I've read a lot of books, and I do go on social media. I'm getting that from social media, but that's not what comes over on the media, and it's not what's written about in the tabloids.
Thank you for that, Kate. Just quick thought from you guys on that. I mean, Jenny, Kate's making it really clear there and making the point for us here that social media has allowed people to sort of form these opinions and then spread the opinions around amongst their sort of peer groups and perhaps get a different understanding of these people.
Well, I mean, social media is vicious. There's no way of getting around it. If anyone like myself says anything even mildly critical of Harry and particularly Meghan, I get real abuse, racial abuse as well. So it has some benefits, but it is quite evil. I think William probably is a very angry man. I think he has some reason to be angry. And as for settling out of court with the Murdoch empire, well, that's what most settlements are in hacking case. I mean, 1,000 cases have been brought, and nearly all have been settled out of court and relatively anonymously. So it's not exceptional.
OK.
What might be exceptional is the deal, if it's true, that they would hold off any settlement until such time as all the other settlements had been agreed. It does seem to be a special arrangement for William and Kate, if what we've seen in the papers is true.
And, of course, if that is true, we'll find out in due course, of course, because those cases are going to be proceeding. Yeah. All right, guys, for now, let's go back to the phones. And Connie in South West London. Connie, what do you want to say?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Connie.
The monarchy for me is completely relevant. I have looked forward to this coronation for many, many years. I'm 68 years old now and grew up to respect our late Queen, and I'm just so happy that Charles is now going to be crowned. He's waited a long time. He's had a long and extensive apprenticeship for this. And the way I look at it is it's a date with destiny. He was born to be king, and it's his right to be king. I feel that as Prince of Wales, he used his money that he was given when he left the Navy in 1976, and he set up the Prince's Trust that we all know about. And he has helped so many young people at home and abroad with this, very active with all of that as well. And I think that with Queen Camilla now by his side, he'll prove to be an excellent king. She has somehow, in my opinion, sort of softened him a bit as a person, and I think he feels very relaxed and happy with her. Maybe it's also the fact that he's now got grandchildren himself as well. And as for Camilla, I think she is more than worthy of her crown. She has been involved in lots of charities very close to her heart, osteoporosis, and of course with the charity for the women that are caught up in domestic violence. So on Saturday, I will swear my allegiance to the King. I will be proud to do so. And all those protesters and their placards, please stay away. We don't need you spoiling our day. We're going to have a fantastic day. And long live the King and his Queen Camilla. God bless them both.
Connie, thank you very much for your call. Let's go to Chris in Middlesbrough now. Chris, you are on the air. What do you want to say?
Good evening. I think that King Charles has proved over time that he's been more right more often than the critics he's picked up from time to time. In his environmentalism, in his architectural comments, I think time has proved him to be more right than the metropolitan chattering critics that have infested his career.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. All right, guys, there's plenty to unpick there. Let's start off with you, Norman. I mean, Connie really made it sort of clear. It's a sense of respect and pride that she is clinging to, that she wants to have replicated on Saturday, and she thinks that we should all get behind that idea.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that she feels the way she does, and she feels very strongly, and I hope she has a very good day. But equally, we are in a free country, we're a democratic country, and one of the elements that is key to our democracy is the right to lawful and peaceful protest. So it's not right to say people shouldn't turn up if they want to turn up and wave banners. I mean, that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do. And indeed, I hope the police won't interfere with that. Because when we had Xi Jinping over here, the Chinese leader, the police, the Metropolitan Police, hassled out of the way all the Tibetans and Uyghurs who were quite peacefully protesting. So I hope the police will, in fact, allow lawful protest, while obviously preventing anything which is improper.
And Jenny, the Metropolitan Police have said that they're going to have sort of a zero tolerance for any kind of disruption. I mean, there were reports in the papers about alarms being thrown at the horses. We don't know what's going to happen on Saturday yet, but the police are going to have, they say, a very firm hand.
Yeah, but they've also said that they want to engage with the protesters rather than move them on. Obviously, they, I can quite see that they must have the right to protest, the Republicans who wish to be there. I think it's a bit rude, frankly, to rain on, it's a bit of a pun, isn't it, on Charles's party. But they have a right to. I think it's a little bit sad.
I mean, but they, as you say, they do have the right to protest.
Of course it's the obvious platform on which they should do it. But I do hope they don't disrupt the procession. I mean, there are horses and soldiers and people whose lives could be put at risk. Never mind the royal family.
I mean, one thing that Connie said that was really interesting to me, Effie, I want to come to you on this, was that she said it's Charles's destiny, and this is, the idea that he was born to this. I mean, of course, it's hereditary monarchy, but is that part of the thing as to why some people may find it uncomfortable what's happening on Saturday?
Well, yes, because it's this family that have been deigned by God to rule over us, and where does that come from, and why them, and why should it be them, and why not anybody else, and why do we need that in the first place? That's what a lot of people are questioning, and it seems to be around the coronation that a lot more discussion about that is happening, and happening in the open, and you have Republic who seem to have sort of gained prominence, is that the word? Like, we're seeing a lot more of them.
Well, certainly been written about a lot more.
Exactly, than they ever have been. I didn't really hear about them during the Jubilee. Of course, during the Queen's passing, out of respect, I think they kind of held back. But now we're hearing so much more about them. And I think, people are really thinking about who is the royal family? Who is the monarchy? What do they mean to us? And Jenny, you were talking about social media earlier on. I think there is a danger of them falling into that trap of, the cult of the celebrity. But it seems to be sort of a celebrity family that's dysfunctional that we pay for. And so a lot of people are like, no, we're not having that. And I guess that really rings true amongst the younger generation, but other people as well. And, they have had their issues through the years that do play out now like a soap opera.
Before you come in, Norman, I just want to get a quick thought from you on that idea of the destiny, the hereditary nature of this monarchy. And is that where the generational thing comes in? Is it sort of...
The generational thing changes from generation to generation. It's a constant, and every time someone passes that 18 to 24 age group and get into sort of 30, they think, oh, it's all right, status quo. So that's a constant.
But isn't it more about the sort of the deigned by God? Isn't it that sort of religious element that I think...
I mean, it's ludicrous. The whole idea is ludicrous of a hereditary monarchy. Of course it is. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I don't think they particularly like it, the royal family, either. They talk about their destiny, and Charles spoke about it, sort of grotesque destiny, he realised. Diana talked to me about William feeling that the burden of kingship, even when he was a young boy, weighed heavily on his shoulders. It's a life of enormous privilege, of course, but of enormous restriction and constraint. It's a life they view of service. And I haven't got a problem whatsoever with having a republic. I love politics. Having another election, yeah, let's go for it, have a president. I'd love that, but the fact of the matter is that it appears to work, just one last thought, it appears to work as a way of being in this country, and I do think that if you had a referendum tomorrow, the majority of those who voted would say, yes, let's keep the monarchy.
Well, they would say yes, that's perfectly true. And let me preface what I want to say by saying, actually, I agree with Charles on a whole range of issues, to pick up one of the earlier comments that were made on environmental issues and so on. However, the trouble with the hereditary monarchy is this. You get who's next in line, whether they're any good or not. And you can get someone who is assiduous. The Queen was assiduous, I think, in her duties. George V was rather boring, but did his job properly. Edward VIII was a Nazi sympathiser. We all knew he was on the run-up to the Second World War. Now, the trouble is that people take an oath of allegiance to the King, including the armed forces. Now, that may be uncontroversial with Charles and uncontroversial with Elizabeth when she was on the throne. It wouldn't have been uncontroversial with Edward VIII, who could have said, had he still been on the throne in 1939, lay down your arms, because that's what he wanted to happen. He wanted to deal with Nazi Germany. So we have to be very, very careful with the hereditary principle that we don't get the wrong person.
But who do you get when we vote? May I mention Liz Truss? May I mention Boris Johnson?
We've got rid of them, haven't we? You see, you get rid of politicians.
But this is the thing, is that we say that, it works, or this hereditary monarchy works, it carries on. Does it work? Because, I mean, a the Prince's Trust is great. That's amazing. Duke of Edinburgh Award was also excellent. But what are they doing for us? What are they doing?
Let's go back to that. If we can pick up on that. I mean, it seems it's one of those things that works until it just doesn't, and then
exactly.
we've got a problem. Let's go to Steve in Manchester. And Steve, you are on the air, former member of the Armed Forces. What do you want to tell our panel and the nation?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I say, I'm 42. I pledged an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen and to her and successors, and that rings true to this day, and it always will. It runs thick in my blood, as it will many members of the Armed Forces serving and veterans. I also believe that the monarchy is in very safe hands with King Charles and Queen Camilla, and I think the public and the nation needs to get used to the idea that she is going to be Queen Camilla, not Queen Consort. And let's look back into history, and if I'm right, I'm sure the Queen's mum had the same title, and it was changed when she married the Queen's father. And again, the monarchy, a lot of people forget, brings in so much money to our nation. Tourists come far and wide to our country to see the royal family, to visit the palaces, and they bring in so much money into this country in tourism-wise that they don't realise this. And I think the monarchy is in safe hands for now and for the future. And I think King Charles, Queen Camilla are going to do an absolutely fantastic job, as will the rest as it goes down, all his heirs and successors. So as I say, God save our King.
All right, Steve, really do appreciate that. I mean, Norman, sort of making...
I am. I mean, there's two things. Taking an oath to Charles, I suppose, is one thing, but taking an oath to his heirs and successors, let's just remember that in the top 10 of those who are on the line of succession, they include both Harry and Prince Andrew, neither of whom I think people want to take an oath of allegiance to, but that's what the oath says, heirs and successors. And as far as Camilla's concerned, I don't want to be...
We will come on to it later, because I'm sure that is going to be a topic that we're all going to want to discuss. I do want to go back to Connie, though, in South London, who says she's going to be having... I'm being told in my ear that we don't have it, even though I was sure we did. Let's carry on if we can now. If you'd like to post a message to the new King and Queen ahead of the coronation, you can do so. What I need you to do is get your phone out and scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now. It's going to take you to our app where you can leave a message. Let's take a look at some of the messages that we've had so far. Now, the Ronans got in touch and said, we're all looking forward to watching the coronation this weekend. They go on to say, thank you for your service to this amazing country. Your parents will be looking down with pride. God save the King. Now, Pammy wrote, I was 6 when I watched the Queen's coronation. I'm now 76, a bit like Connie was saying, and I'll be watching our King being crowned. I hope you serve our country as well as your mum did. Hope it's a great day for you and your family. And we had Alberto Teco, who wrote, not sure what the royal family does, but long live the King. Appreciate everyone who is getting in touch, and it got a chug from the panel, which is always good. All right, you are watching our special coronation phone-in programme, A King for All Your Say. Coming up, we'll look at who the most popular members of the royal family are. Stay with us for that, and don't forget, you can get in touch by phone. Hello there and welcome back to our special programme, A King for All, Your Say. Before we get back to the phone lines, let's take a look at some more of that polling that we've done in conjunction with Ipsos. Now, Charles is going to be officially crowned in just a matter of days, but how popular is he? Well, we asked 1,079 adults at the beginning of April, and here's what they said. 52% of people said they feel favourably toward the monarch, while 21% said the opposite. Now, if we do the maths and take one away from the other, we see the king has a net favourability of plus 31%. It's a big jump from 2018 when he was at just plus 3. So now we know that King Charles's popularity has increased. The king has a net favourability of plus 31%. But how does that compare to other members of the family? Well, there they are on your screen. Now, he is slightly ahead than the royal family as a whole, which has a net favourability of plus 29. Now, in contrast, the Queen Consort has a net favourability of just plus 8. Out of all the royals, the Princess Royal is the most liked, alongside the Prince and Princess of Wales. They had net favourability ratings of 47%, but Harry and Meghan are down the other end, along with Prince Andrew, who stepped down from public duties following a series of scandals. He has the lowest net favourability at minus 55%. All right, let's go back to the phones and see what you make of that polling. Bob in Cornwall, you are on the air. What do you make of the fact that Queen Camilla has only got 8% favourability ratings?
I think that's a shame. I think she gives Charles a lot of strength, and just having her by his side is really, I think it should help his polling. He's been preparing to be king his whole life. He's intelligent, compassionate, sensitive to people's needs, public opinion. He's dedicated, and I honestly think that Queen Camilla is part of that, a big part of that. OK. So, guys, even though Camilla has such low favourability ratings in our polling, it's the second time that word strength has been used when describing Camilla and Charles. Norman?
Well, I think she does give him strength, and I think he'd be rather weaker without it. That's true. But there was another opinion poll a couple of weeks ago which hasn't received much coverage, which is only 14% of people think that she should be called Queen. And others wanted Queen Consort or, in fact, Duchess of Cornwall to remain. And if you go back, Jenny may remember this better than I do, but originally she wasn't going to be called Queen at all. She was going to be called, I think, Duchess of Cornwall and then Queen Consort. Is that right?
Princess Consort.
Princess Consort, that's right. And then, so the Queen title is a relatively recent addition. And I just think, given the history of this with Diana, and indeed with some sympathy and thought for the boys, Harry and William, it would have been better if she hadn't been called Queen.
Well, Jen, it's worth explaining exactly why she is going to be given the title of Queen Consort.
Well, Queen... If you marry a king, you're called Queen. That's the simple answer. As regards Queen Consort or Queen, well, Queen Alexandra was Queen Consort. Queen Mary was Queen Consort. We didn't call them that. We called them Queen Mary. We called them Queen Alexandra, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. So it's a shorthand, if you like. So that's a natural thing. I get very cross when people say that Camilla shouldn't be Queen. I think it's insulting to the woman. Who hasn't made a mess of their private lives? For goodness sake, can we move on and stop whipping them and saying, you made a bad marriage, you behaved badly? These guys have loved each other for 50 years. He is proud to have this woman as his wife, and he is king, and she is quite rightly going to be called Queen. That's my view.
I mean, he is king and she will be Queen, but that doesn't mean that the public are necessarily happy. I mean, anecdotally, from some people I have spoken to, there seems to be a lot of upset about the idea of Queen Camilla.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of the same, and I think there is a real hangover from that past relationship, from Charles and Diana. Now, if we had been sitting here in 1997, the polling would have been in single digits for King Charles for popularity. And for us talking about, King Charles to have married Camilla and for her to be crowned alongside him and be queen, it was never going to happen. It
Jenny
was like a pipe
reporting
dream.
at the time, right?
Am I
Well,
rock.
sitting here. Yes.
Exactly. But
There was no chance of it, was there?
Never.
Absolutely no chance. And you're absolutely right in what you say. What a journey. And isn't that brilliant that we've moved on as a nation from the days of Wallace Simpson and Edward VIII, when he couldn't marry the woman he wanted because she was divorced and because she was American, when Charles couldn't marry Camilla because she had form. And we've moved on. And as I say, so many people are in second, third marriages. This is a new blended family which mirrors the blended families and extended families and screwed up families that is the nation.
Absolutely. I mean, I could not agree with you more that I'm glad that we've moved on to a time where someone can have a second marriage and can have a blended family. That definitely reflects modern Britain. However, you have to remember that the British people hold up the royal family to a completely different standard than they hold themselves or their own family. So we want our royal family, our family that are the deigned from God, head of state, to be purer than pure, whiter than white. No second marriages, no blended families, no memoirs, no one of colour. We don't want any of that. We want that pure blood family, and that's why a lot of British people still have this hangover from that time of Diana and Charles. So therefore, don't want Camilla to be queen. Want it to be Queen Consort or Queen Camilla.
I mean, Bob, you're still with us, I think. Just what do you think of that idea that that it's a great sign that we have moved on as a country, or do you still feel that there is a little animosity about the fact that the family seems so dysfunctional? It doesn't set such a great example, does it?
Yeah, a set of members of the family are quite dysfunctional, but she had Queen Elizabeth's seal of approval. Don't get me wrong, I loved Diana. She was obviously a heroine to us, but it just wasn't meant to be. If he'd had the chance to actually marry Camilla to begin with, we wouldn't be having this debate as such. So, to me, she needs to be given that chance.
OK. Bob, do appreciate that. Norman, quick thought from you.
Well, personally, I'm very happy if they're happy together, and I'm nothing against him marrying her. I just don't think she should be called queen.
Okay.
Why?
But because Diana was the one who should be called queen, and Diana's no longer there. I'm happy she should be called Queen Consort.
Okay.
Well, I'd be happy for her to be Queen Consort.
So you wouldn't want to see her crowned? You wouldn't want her to be part of the coronation?
No, I personally wouldn't, no. And I think that's in line, actually, with the majority of people in the country. That opinion poll I quoted, only 14% think she should be queen.
Well, it's like saying, if you go into a second marriage, you can't be called Mrs.
No, it's different when you're a head of state. It's not quite the same, Jenny.
Well, I think it's mean.
All right, I thought it was going to be more there, but that was plenty. Norman, thank you so much for that. Let's go back to the phones. Michael in Bolton, you are on the air. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that we should have Queen Camilla?
To be honest, all this kind of argument about should she be queen, shouldn't she be queen, it's an issue of semantics. Like, she's with King Charles, that's lovely, fine. She should be queen or not. It all feels like it's just some sort of gossip magazine or some sort of glorified soap. Family, like I live in Greater Manchester, the royal family, like I'm going to be trying to avoid the coronation because I had a bad enough time when the Queen's funeral was on, Well, they're lovely people, the royal family, but at the same time, they don't really have much relevance to my everyday life. And a lot of people, particularly my generation, I'm a millennial, and the younger generation, don't have that connection. And like, I've seen the Queen when I was, very young. She came to Morecambe, where I'm from. But at the same time, it's kind of the fact that we spend hours and hours saying, oh, should she be queen? Shouldn't she be queen? What particular label are we going to put on her? And this kind of obsession feels a bit silly because it's kind of almost suspended ourselves and kind of suspended our disbelief of kind of all the real life and just gone, oh, let's play royalty for a little bit. It feels a bit silly, like whatever they decide, but it's kind of whether she's queen or not, really care.
So, Michael, then more broadly, I mean, what do you think about the monarchy? Would you want to see it continuing on in its current form? Do you want to see it change? Do you want to see it done away with entirely?
I think it should change. If we're going to keep it, talk about the tourism, and that seems to be the key thing that royalists seem to put forward. You know, I mean, I'll be honest, I've not really seen many tourists I know come to specifically meet King Charles or Prince William go and see Buckingham Palace, which is, whether there's a royalty there or not, that's still, they're not going to knock it down if we get rid of the royalty. We should have, like, back, like, you know, not many people are going to know about the royal family of Norway, but to have a much lesser role within Norwegian society. And, you know, they're just kind of figureheads. Like the prince, you know, sort of like the king was when he was a prince. He was just kind of a figurehead and supported charities. It's fine. There wasn't all this drama and obsession over, oh, who's going to get this? Is Harry going to come to the coronation? I think if you're going to keep the royal family, which other countries are thinking of getting rid of them, you know, Jamaica, good luck to them, because perfectly good reason to do so. Keep it, just be figureheads. We shouldn't have this weird obsession and kind of give them as much power as they have, because a lot for charity, great. 21st century Britain, it feels like we're trying to relive great, you know, rule Britannia and all the kind of stuff that we saw with Brexit and the kind of culture wars and everything like that. And it's trying to back to a time that's since gone.
Okay, appreciate that opinion, Michael. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to another call. Anthony, you're in Exeter. What do you want to say?
Hello there. Good evening. Thank you for having me on. What a cracking debate.
Thank you, Anthony. You had to.
I was 9 years old. I was 9 years old when God's mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, had her coronation. And what a paragon of respectability and protocol she was. Never explain, never complain. I had trouble associating that definition with Charles and Camilla, I'm afraid. And I take issue with the monarchy living off the taxpayer. The sovereign grant that the monarchy receives is phenomenal. Charles himself paid no inheritance tax after his mother died. His land fortune is eye-watering. The Duchy of Cornwall itself raking a fortune. It's worth 1.5 billion. He owns 2/3 of Dartmoor, and the taxpayer pays for his accommodation, transport, their accommodation, transport, jets, helicopters. His security alone for this kabuki pantomime in Westminster Abbey on Saturday is 150 million. Our only salvation, I think, is for maybe William will give the nod for a country that will have an elected state, an elected head of state, and not be asked to swear allegiance to someone the taxpayer keeps. Now, wouldn't that be a vision?
It may well be. Anthony, do appreciate you adding to the debate. All right, guys, let's pick up some of that stuff there. And I don't actually know quite where to start, but let's start with the idea of a kabuki pantomime this weekend. I mean, 7,000 armed force personnel. It's a big old panto, though.
Yes, I think, and 11,000 police at least. Yes, it is very expensive. I'm in two minds about whether we should be having this coronation. I think perhaps it will be the last coronation we'll see. As you quite rightly say, Norman, it doesn't happen in Europe. People are going to enjoy the pomp and pageantry if you're into that, and it is a heck of a spectacle, it really is. But in this cost of living crisis, should it be happening, would it be much better for that money to be diverted to perhaps reparation for slavery? Something like that. I kind of feel that would have been a bigger gesture.
Well, that would have been a gesture, and there was talk about it being a slimmed down coronation, but it does feel...
2,000 people. It's not that slim.
Doesn't feel as slim as it could be. I mean, Jenny, you obviously have been a royal commentator for some time, and you have some experience.
Before you were born,
some experience, and you know what you're talking about. What is it? Why did Prince Charles now King Charles, want this to be such a show when there were options for him to not have it as such?
I haven't actually asked him, but I think there are a number of reasons. One is that he feels that he's a very spiritual man, and this is a religious service. At the heart of it is religion. And I feel he wants that sanctity and that sacredness of it. Another thought that has occurred to me is that, you know, this is going to be his big moment, and he's not going to get another one. He's 74, going on 75. We're not going to see a silver jubilee, being realistic. So this is his big chance for that. But I think, honestly, at the heart of it, it's his feeling that this is a very serious job, and he wants it all to be about service, not a religious service, but devoting himself to a life of service.
And he feels he needs this big coronation to do that, because of course there's the sort of the sacred moments when he's anointed with oil. I mean, Anthony, you're still with us, I believe. What do you make of the size of what we're about to see? I mean, you called it a kabuki pantomime. I guess you wanted it to be slimmed down entirely. This idea that, you know, this is King Charles's chance to have this big moment, and it's his destiny, as one of our previous callers described it.
Well, I've lived through his we're the same age, or I'm slightly older than him. I've lived through his life and observed him and his marriage to Diana and the association with Camilla and everything. When she, to be fair, I mean, perhaps Camilla went through a hell of a time after they got together, and she was trying to associate with the monarchy, and she was vilified in so many ways. I just have trouble with King Charles. I just have trouble with him being king. It's because of an old fart, 79 years of age, and I had a queen for so long that we respected and loved. Now we've got a young couple, Kate and William, who are coming through, and I watched their lovely trip through Soho today with stopping off at the pub. They had time to travel on the tube. My God, wasn't that phenomenal? Their PR must be fabulous, but I just can't get my head around Charles and Camilla as queen. I can't do it. It's an anathema to me.
Anthony, really appreciate you calling in and taking part in this discussion. I just want to go to another call. We've got Peck in Colchester. Peck, what did you want to say?
I wanted to say that actually there is significance in the royal family and the monarchy in the whole. I mean, that is a symbolism of Britain, isn't it? Because it's what really many people around the world, they look and admire, like the UK as a whole, like the royal family. And even me as a citizen of a republic country, I'm from Singapore actually, I still do feel there is a good degree of importance in them continuing the traditions, even as a young person myself.
OK. Peck, do appreciate that. We thank you all for calling. And guys, we're going to go to a break now, so stay with us. You're watching our special coronation programme, A King for All. Have your say. Now, coming up, do the royals receive and deserve as much of our money as they get? I couldn't hear Peck at all then, unfortunately. Well, welcome back to our special programme, A King for All, Your Say. Let's take a look at the issue of money. Now, the royal family is funded through the sovereign grant, which was just over £100 million last year, slightly higher than usual due to palace renovations. So, does the royal family receive too much money? We asked our 1,008 respondents in our poll with Ipsos, and it shows the number of people who are happy with the money the royal family receives has fallen in recent years. And have a look at how public opinion changed in context of different events happening in Britain at the time. 1992 was the Queen's Annus Horribilis, the year in which two of her children separated from their partners. Details of Princess Diana's private life were published, as well as there being a fire at Windsor Castle. 2012, however, there was an uptick in support, and that is the year, of course, of the London Olympic Games. All right, guys, so, look, As Jenny said, it does go up and down in terms of how people feel about the royal family.
2012 was the Olympic Games, but it was the Jubilee. It was the Diamond Jubilee, much more relevant.
Exactly. And she jumped out of the plane with James Bond, which was excellent. An excellent moment. Helicopter. Look, as you rightly point out, the polling does go up and down on this, but, looking at the sovereign grant, I think it's about £1.29 per person.
Well, the palace say it costs £1.29, but I don't know if I'd actually believe that.
Right.
The sovereign grant replaced the civil list. The civil list was 7.9 million in 2011, and the sovereign grant last year, I think I'm right in saying, was 86.3 million, not 100 million. That's a massive increase in that 10-year period. And it's not just that. You look at the tax breaks, which the royal family uniquely gets, the fact that there's no death duties paid on the private possessions, not talking about the crown jewels and things, the private possessions which are passed from the Queen, the Fabergé eggs, the string of racehorses, the paintings. Why should Charles be exempt from paying death duties? No one else in the country is.
What about the land as well?
And there's all the land. There's the Duchy of Cornwall and Duchy of Lancaster, which are, if I may say so, kind of royal slush funds, as far as I'm concerned. The Duchy of Cornwall was regarded until at least 1921 as a government department belonging to the state. And it shouldn't be money going towards the Prince of Wales, whoever he is at the time. It should go in straight to the Treasury.
Okay. I mean, because, yes, and a lot of the Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall, Duchy of Lancaster and Dartmoor, that's disputed lands, so they shouldn't be making £1.5 billion off that, and they shouldn't be exempt from tax. And yes, maybe they only cost us £1.29 in sovereign grant, but they're getting so many tax breaks, they're costing us way more money. And this is the thing, is that when we are in this cost of living crisis, when people have had a pretty hard winter, where they've had to choose between heating and eating, and we see all those headlines, but that is a reality for a lot of people. All this pomp and pageantry, golden carriages, orbs, sceptres, imperial crowns, St Mary's crown, your crown, my crown, Jenny's crown, it's rubbing salt in the wound for people, and that is absolutely not what they want to see at all. It's all right for King Charles III to, do a Christmas speech where he says, he acknowledges that people are going through a hard time and talks about people who've worked hard during the pandemic and invites them all to the coronation. You've made £1.5 billion off your land. How about you spread that amongst the people you deign to reign over?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Jenny, you're going to come back in a moment. I just want to go to another call. We've got Bob in Berkshire. Bob, we don't have loads of time left. What do you want to say?
Well, actually, I've been a lifelong royalist. I served in the Ministry of Defence. I was at the Treasury, actually, when Prince Charles, or then Prince Charles, came to the Treasury to come to the Policy Coordination Committee back in 1982, I think it was. And throughout my life, I've respected them as an institution. I think they represent something which is a bit more bit different to what most people talk about when they talk on the media. They represent a different status in terms of the way in which the Constitution is formed. They keep us safe from having sort of complete fools becoming presidents, etc. And I think that sort of listening to the debate this then, we just spent £400 billion telling people to stay at home sort of during COVID. We spent another £100 billion on quantitative easing. We spent £500 billion in total on getting absolutely zero for the UK economy. And here we have a royal family who, for a very small portion of our money, sort of give us great value. And for me, they have my undying loyalty and my undying love.
Appreciate that, John. Let's go to Inverness, where John is standing by. John?
Hello, good evening. Hello?
Hi, John in Inverness. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, I can hear you.
Go ahead, John. What did you want to say?
What I want to say is, I don't think King Charles and Camilla to be on the throne, and the reasons for that is the way they treated Princess Diane, and through a divorce and that, and she did say there was 3 in the marriage, and so that means that King Charles was cheating on Diane, a very much loved person in the UK and the other countries. She was loved by all the people, and that happened to Diane. It really upset me and a lot of others. And Camilla was, she was the same as King Charles, and she knew it was wrong what they were doing. And as regards to the sovereign grant in the 2021 to 22 was set at 86.3 million. That is roughly £1.29 for every person in the UK. The payments stem from an agreement George III made with the British government in 1760 to give up income from the monarchy's properties in exchange for a fixed annual payment. It went up to cover the Queen's funeral or the coronation. Now, every family in the UK and Northern Ireland and Wales, say no, it's costing the taxpayers millions of pounds to cover this coronation. There's 11,500 policemen, and they will be at the coronation, and that's at taxpayers' expense. And I totally disagree with King Charles being on the throne. I think William and Kate would be much better for the royal family. And it's been full of scandal over the past 2 years, and Prince Andrew for one, and Harry.
I want to go to one more caller. We only got about a couple of minutes left, so I do thank you for calling in. I just want to go to Noel in Sussex. And Noel, we don't have loads of time, so if you can make your point, but be succinct, please.
I will indeed, Kamal. Hello. Thank you for having me. I think the panel needs to focus really on the good that's going to come out of this weekend. I mean, the whole country's in a buzz. Everyone's street parties, bunting everywhere. I think everyone's so looking forward to it and so excited. And I think the panel should focus on all of the good that's going to come out of it. It's not King Charles's. He shouldn't be held responsible for the sort of behaviour of other members of his family. He's a good king, and I think she's going to make a great queen. I think the whole panel should celebrate that. And I'm all for it, and lots of people I know are all for it. And long live the King and Queen.
Right, thank you very much for that, Noel. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Afia?
But I hear what Noel is saying, but Noel also has to realise that there's a lot of people who don't have the bunting out, are not interested, don't care about it, and there's a lot of people who are furious that this is happening and this amount of money has been spent, and they can't focus on the good coming out of it.
There was something that was said earlier as well by Michael that talked about sort of dragging back this Rule Britannia culture as well, Jenny, which I think is a danger that many people see when you're sort of seeing all this pomp and circumstance on the streets.
Well, you don't have to take part, you don't have to watch it. Go to the beach, do something else. You have a choice. A lot of people are going to enjoy it. And I would just say about Camilla, that I sat with Diana in her drawing room and talked about Camilla. And Camilla, in Diana's view, had been loyal, discreet, and deserved some form of recognition. Well, she's going to get it on Saturday.
Norman?
Well, just on... I hope people do enjoy it if they're interested in these matters. I'd like people to enjoy whatever they're doing at the weekend. But the fact is, there's only a wet blanket, but there are far fewer street parties taking place this weekend than took place in the Queen's Jubilee. That's a fact, statistical fact. On the coronation, Charles wanted a slimmed down coronation. This one's costing £250 million. Even if you take away the security, which is 150 million, 100 million, that's twice as much in real terms as what Queen Elizabeth had in 1953. How is that slimmed down? It's twice as expensive as it was. And the other thing is, just to pick up on the palaces that have been referred to earlier on, the palace with the most visitors in Europe is the Palace of Versailles. And the French got rid of their monarchy in 1848. So, you know, whatever you think about the monarchy, the most ludicrous argument in favour of the monarchy is it's good for tourism. That's a really bad argument.
I think they're bringing some estimate to be £19 billion in...
Well, that's people drinking in the pubs, I should think.
There's lots of ways they bring money in. All right, guys, that has been a really excellent discussion. We appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for coming in. Jenny, Norman, Afia. I know what you're going to be doing at the weekend. You're going to be watching the coronation there, Afia.
I'm going to be talking about it.
You're going to be talking about
on
the coronation.
TV.
Jenny, you'll be doing the same thing.
And we're all broadcasting different places.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Well, I do appreciate you guys coming in. Enjoy the weekend, whatever you get up to. That is all from the phone-in. Coming up is Jamaica, about to remove the king as its head of state and become a republic. There's plenty more to come on Sky News after this short break.
God save our grace.
Long live.
God save the king.
Victoria.
Happy and glorious.
Long to reign over us.
God save the